Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by the last man standing by loserpool.com. Yes, we are live. We're coming to you from North London. As you can see, I'm sweating, I'm hot, I'm irritated, I'm hot and bothered. But I'll never complain about this weather because I absolutely love it. It beats raining, doesn't it? You can't really complain when we get scorching sunshine like this. Great temperatures. I think it's around about 34, 35 degrees here in North London at the moment. But I'm looking forward to sticking the barbecue on after I finish here. So we're going to start off, of course, by talking about Arsenal's game against Real Madrid in the International Champions Cup. That took place last night. It was a kickoff at 12 p.m., 12 a.m., I should say. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? 12 a.m. kickoff in Maryland in the United States, close to Washington, D.C. That game took place late at night for us, but you know it was an early evening game for them over there. Lots and lots to talk about, and considering it was a friendly, that's pretty surprising. Let's start off with how the game went. Now I'm just going to share my screen with you guys here, so if you have a look, you'll see it finished Real Madrid 2, Arsenal 2. Goals from Lacazette and Aubameyang for the Arsenal, and goals from Bale and Asensio for Real Madrid. Now, let me know in the comments your thoughts on the game last night. If you saw it, Unai Emery decided to go with Emi Martinez in goal. It was a back four of Jenkinson, Chambers, Sokratis and Kolasinac. Now, Jenkinson came in late for Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who I could only assume suffered an injury in the warm-up or, you know, very close to the game taking place. Willock, Xhaka, Mkhitaryan were in the middle of the park, and then you had Mesut Ozil with Aubameyang and Lacazette up top. Leno was on the bench. Everybody's favourite defender, Mustafi, was on the bench, as were the rest of the players. But quite a few substitutions in the second half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in total. Of course, that changes the dynamic of the game. But there was a couple of incidents I want to touch on, and those were the two sendings off. First of all, Nacho was sent off for Real Madrid for a handball. Alexander Lacazette looked as though he was about to score, fired it goalwards, and Nacho saved it with his hand. Now, the penalty was given, and eventually Nacho was sent off. Now, in normal circumstances, that is absolutely 100% a red card. But this is a friendly, so I've got a little bit of sympathy for Nacho because, you know, did the referee really need to send him off in these circumstances in a game like this? I'm not so sure. I probably wouldn't have sent him off. I probably would have allowed him to get away with it. But equally, I'd say the same about the Sokratis incident. Now, he was shown 2 yellow cards. Whether it's naive or stupid what he done is kind of neither here nor there. At the end of the day, it is a friendly. And I just think if you're going to send players off in friendlies, you know, they've really got to deserve it. And I just don't think that was the case last night. And so I found that a little bit harsh. And, you know, it felt like it was stupid to send Nacho off. But then the referee kind of had no choice in the Sokratis incident. It was as though, you know, the Real Madrid players got onto his case, the referee's case, got around him and made him make that decision. A couple of comments coming in from those of you watching live at the moment. Praveen says, ref spoiled the match. Can't disagree with that. That's pretty much what I've said. I think he could have handled that a lot better and in a lot more effective manner. And there was just no need. Like I said, it was a friendly. Later on in the game, Arsenal got another one. Aubameyang went through and goal, went round the keeper, finished brilliantly in true Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang fashion. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, that in terms of talent, this Arsenal side is so top-heavy, isn't it? It is so top-heavy. When you think about it, we're talking about a team with a front three when they're all on song, all on fire, and I'm talking about Ozil, Aubameyang, Lacazette, who are as good as anybody in the Premier League. Yet we're so bad defensively and so poor in the midfield that it leaves you so frustrated, doesn't it? And I think this was a prime example of it. Those three, and Ozil with his new blonde hair, he seems to have found a new lease of life. But those players as a combination, you know, on their day, as good as anybody, but it's what it does to the rest of the team. It's the unbalance that it causes to the rest of the team that's a real concern. And I'm not sure how Unai Emery is going to address that, particularly with the personnel that he's got available to him at the minute. But I think this game just highlighted that even further, and we've spoken about that before. It won't be coming as a surprise to anybody, but it just further highlighted that, didn't it? Then half-time came. Arsenal 2 goals to the good. Real Madrid made some changes. On came Gareth Bale, Isco, a couple of others. Courtois came on in goal. Odriozola, etc., Marcelo. But for me, Bale was the change that really made the difference. Bale from the first minute, he was up for it. He was causing Arsenal all sorts of problems. And, eventually he got the first goal, didn't he? 57 minutes, and brought Real Madrid back into the game. It was a tap-in the end. And I kind of felt that Martinez could have done a little bit better there. I felt he could have done a little bit better for the second one too from Asensio. But you know what? It's a friendly, so I'm not going to get too hung up on that. I'm not going to criticise them too much, but I just feel like as a goalkeeper, you've got to be dealing with those situations a little bit better. And, Arsenal's youngsters came on and in many ways impressed. But what I will say is, for example, Nketiah missed a really good opportunity, and you just think to yourself that, yes, it's a friendly. Yes, we shouldn't take what happens too seriously. I've said it before that at this point, it's all about fitness, etc. But if you are a player on the fringes of the first team who doesn't get that many first team opportunities, then these are the games where you've got to show what you're capable of. You have to show something, and I know it's a friendly, but this is your opportunity. What other opportunity will you get to show what you can do against the opponent of the quality of Real Madrid? It's a real chance for these players, and I just wish that some of them did a little bit more in sort of taking those opportunities, because I don't feel that they do enough from time to time. Although you want to be sort of understanding because they're youngsters, etc. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we could have won that in the second half, and we didn't. We went on to lose on penalties, and my word, those penalties were bad, weren't they? They were really bad. It just makes you think, do we have anyone that we can rely on from the spot apart from Alexander Lacazette, maybe? I would argue that we don't. Now let's cross over to some of your comments. Brandon says, will Ceballos and Saliba be announced tomorrow? I'm going to come on to talk about Ceballos in a couple of minutes, so I'm going to park that for a second. Saliba, there's videos going around on social media of him being in London. Don't know how genuine those are, or if it's even Saliba. You can hardly tell, to be honest. You can see it from such a long distance. Kenneth says, it really doesn't make sense how Kroenke tells fans to be excited, and yet he can only afford to bring players on loan. Maybe he told us to be excited about loans. I don't know. Can you really get excited about loan deals? I guess you can. But yeah, be interesting to see, what happens regarding those signings. We seem to be saying every day that they're going to be announced tomorrow. And we're not hearing anything at the moment. Rising 101 says, Emery should have made halftime changes. Youngsters would have held on to the lead. I'm not sure about that. I don't necessarily think that it was down to the personnel. I think Arsenal really sunk deep in that second half and sort of allowed Real Madrid to come onto them. I know it's not always a case of allowing your opponent. Sometimes your opponent is so good that you get forced to do certain things. But it just felt like Arsenal sunk a little bit too much and invited the pressure from Real Madrid. And I don't know if that's an instruction from Emery. I don't know if subconsciously the players do that, sort of being a couple of goals to the good. I don't know. We'll have to see how that pans out over the season. But that's certainly been something I've criticised Emery for throughout last season, for inviting pressure in many ways. Egal Ibrahim says, Harry, are you worried yet, or are you still confident that the business will get done in time and we will get a centre-back and a left-back? I'm not confident about either of those. I think we'll get William Saliba over the line, but as we know, he'll be going back on loan to St Etienne. So does that help us in the here and now? No, it doesn't. And in terms of a left-back, it seems like we're just not willing to pay the 25 million for Kieran Tierney. I mean, how long can you drag this out, Arsenal? Do you want the player or do you not want the player? If you want him, go and pay the asking price and get him. Get the deal done. Get it over the line. Getting really frustrated about that one at the moment. That one's driving me absolutely mad. Rising 101 also says Martinez for Leno should have been a half-time change too. Yeah, I probably agree with that. But, like I said, I'm not too fussed about the result. I'm not too fussed about individual performances. The only individuals that I think need these games and need to shine in these games are those on the fringes of the first team, because these are their opportunities to show what they can do. Yes, they're friendlies, but they don't always get these chances, so they need to grab them with both hands. But my bigger worry is the fact that, again, we don't know what our best system is. We don't know who our go-to midfield pairing is. I know Guendouzi and Torreira sort of on extended holidays, having featured at the under-21s and, of course, the Copa America, respectively. But it still feels like Arsenal going into a new season again without a plan. And you could excuse that in Unai Emery's first season. But will this be a problem in his second season? Only time will tell, I suppose. So let's wait and see what happens on that. Right, let's talk about Dani Ceballos. We were talking about him yesterday. We were talking about the fact that the move was pretty much done and dusted. But is it? Perhaps it's not. Marco Asensio suffered an injury that is believed to be his ACL in that game last night. And that is a huge, huge blow for Real Madrid and for Zinedine Zidane. And it's thought that Zinedine Zidane is considering pulling the plug on the Ceballos move because it would leave them short in the centre of midfield. Now, they're not exactly the same type of player. Asensio, I would say, is probably a little bit more of an advanced player than Dani Ceballos. And I'm not a Spanish football expert by any means, but they don't strike me as very similar players. But it just feels like Real Madrid may feel they're a little bit short on numbers if they were allowed to... if they were to allow Ceballos to go under these circumstances. So I think for the time being, this one might drag out a little bit longer. It's understood that Ceballos is in London now, is having his medical with Arsenal Football Club, but that doesn't mean the deal will be done after that. They still have to, sign things off and finalise the details. It's just the medical. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Ceballos, we really want him. I was excited by the thought of him coming, but I'm kind of, what's the word? Holding fire on my excitement just in case this one goes tits up. Because you never know. You never know, do you? You never know in football, especially these days. Let's move on to Wilfried Zaha. Everton are in talks to sign Wilfried Zaha. Now, if Everton can get this deal over the line, I'll be absolutely furious because we've been pissing about with this Zaha thing for weeks and weeks. We've gone back with a couple of bids, both which have been laughed at by Crystal Palace and immediately dismissed. But if he was to go to Everton, is that really a step up? If he is to go to Everton, that will tell me that it's just about money, because Everton from Crystal Palace, yeah, they're a bigger club, but is it a massive step up? Is it the step up that a player of his caliber should be making at this stage in his career? I would argue that it's not. So if Wilfried Zaha was to make that move, I'd not only be disappointed that he's not coming to Arsenal, but I'd be disappointed in the player, in the fact that he's willing to make a move like that. Let's head over to the live comments. We've got some questions coming in. Let's have a look. Egal Ibrahim says, I think Willock has a good shout to start the first game versus Newcastle. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think his performances have been positive. Again, as I said, he's one of the players that's had the opportunities to shine on pre-season with others not being there. He needs to take those opportunities. He has taken those opportunities, to be fair. But I think if Willock does start against Newcastle, it won't be because he's rated higher than the rest of those players. It'll be more a case of the fact that, El Neni, Guendouzi, Torreira have all been on international duty this summer, and it just means that they'll probably be a little bit behind in terms of getting back to full fitness, etc., etc. CH1 Hudson says Zidane said will not affect. I assume he's talking about the Ceballos deal. I've read that, but I've also read a conflicting report, so I'm not sure what to believe on that at this stage. I guess only time will tell us. Brandon Benson says, I prefer Nelson than Zaha. Really? And look, I want Reece Nelson to do well. He's a young Arsenal player. He's a product of our academy, etc., etc. Everybody wants him to do well. But let's be realistic here. What has Reece Nelson proved at the highest level? Absolutely nothing. Wilfried Zaha has proven that he's a Premier League class player. Single-handedly almost dragged Crystal Palace to safety a few times now, and he deserves immense credit for that. Reece Nelson did okay in Germany. We discussed it on yesterday's stream. He did okay for the first part of the season, but his performances really, really did drop off. So I'm reluctant to say that Nelson is a better solution than Wilfried Zaha. He's certainly a cheaper solution, and that might be the reason that we stick with him. But I find it hard to agree with you, Brandon, unfortunately, on that point. Next one, David Webb says, Plan A seems to be relying on links whilst putting in way below asking price bids. Plan B is probably Josh saying Emery has faith in our youngsters, so no need to spend big. Not excited here. I think, David, you're one of many Arsenal fans feeling that way at the moment. It's extremely frustrating to see the way our business is being conducted. Every day we wake up hoping to see a couple of deals announced, and that's just not been the case. So we'll have to see, of course, how things pan out on that. Let me know if you've got any other questions. Just a couple more minutes remaining on this stream for you to fire those over, and we will, of course, get them answered online. Let's head back to the screen share so you can see what I'm looking at on the screen, which is the Arsenal official website. Match news. Now, there was a fitness update given to our media after the game. Not sure why my is going so slow there, but there we go. Here we go. Carl Jenkinson, going back to that point I made earlier about him replacing Maitland-Niles. It was because Maitland-Niles felt some pain in his calf during the warm-up. Unai said Ainsley started the warm-up, but he felt some muscular pain. We decided not to risk him. Our objective was not to take injury, so we decided he didn't play. Mustafi's the same. He had some muscular pain. So that's why those two were omitted from the team. And you can find the highlights, of course, if you haven't already seen them, and a full match report on Arsenal.com. So do check that out. Grattan94 with a question. Will we get the Tierney deal sorted soon? I don't know. I really, really don't know. And we spoke yesterday about Celtic being unhappy with the structure of the deal and the fact that they were ultimately pissed off that we wouldn't put the £25 million on the table. We're said to have put 18 million on the table with an additional 7 million to come in bonuses, providing Arsenal made the Champions League. Now, Celtic feel that is unrealistic. They feel like they don't want to risk that extra £7 million on Arsenal making the Champions League because they're not confident that Arsenal will do that. So, it's just a bit of a stalemate at the moment. Pay the money or move on to somebody else. But Arsenal need to get moving, need to get things done. We've got, another week, another 2 weeks left in the transfer window before things start to wrap up. And, time is certainly running out. Porrick Clerkin says, I'd hold off on Zaha, trust Nelson and Saka, invest that money in Tierney and a centre-back. Mate, I've been banging that drum all summer. And it's not that I don't think Zaha is better than Nelson or Saka at this moment in time. It's purely because we need to invest that money in Tierney and a centre-back for now. Not for next season, for now. We're desperate for a centre-back. And, if we're going to rely on the likes of Socrates, Mustafi, Callum Chambers, to backfill this team, particularly when it looks like Laurent Koscielny's leaving, you cannot be feeling confident. Egal Ibrahim brings up the captaincy. Would you rather have one captain or five, as Emery prefers going with five? Now, I didn't agree with the five captain thing in the first place. I thought that was absolute nonsense. I thought it was a flipping waste of time. Couldn't for the life of me understand why Unai Emery would pick five captains, and look at the five now. Where are they? Most of them are gone. Some of them don't want to play for the club, etc., etc. But we've been talking a lot about who should be the next captain. A lot of people have, spoken about Granit Xhaka being the captain. And I thought it was telling last night that Mesut Ozil was given the armband with Granit Xhaka in the side. I found it telling because just when I thought that Unai was going to make Granit Xhaka the permanent captain, he throws a curveball and gives it to Mesut Ozil. Let's see how that goes. Let's see what happens. And we'll take it from there, of course. Thank you once again for tuning in to our live stream. Really, really appreciate it. Just the second time we're doing this using this new software, which I absolutely love. Let me know what you think about it. Love to hear your feedback. And I'll be back tomorrow with another stream/podcast, whatever you want to call it, bringing you the latest on the mighty Arsenal. Until then, take care.